Hey, this is Notser, and we're looking at 0.6.3 Destroyer builds. Why the Destroyer? Because people have asked me. What do you think of it? What's changed? I just want to talk about it. It's important that people understand, and we're going to help you. So, the Destroyer. I can pretty much tell you exactly what build I would use on the Soviets because it's the same build as the previous one. This is the build for the Soviets. The only thing you change is whether to take Adrenaline Rush or Expert Marksman, but this is the build you take for 98% of the Soviet destroyers. You take Priority Target, you take Last Stand, you take Basic Firing Training, you take Advanced Firing Training. You also want to pick up Demolition Expert, Inertia Fuse High Explosive. Oh, but not, sir! You don't need it! It helps. If you have roughly 50%, 30 to 50% of your HE shells failing to do any damage, Inertia Fuse is going to improve that. I find that a lot of times whenever I'm in a destroyer and I'm firing my gun a lot, I will have a significant amount of the HE that just fail to do any damage. Inertia Fuse improves that. Now, whenever you take Inertia Fuse, you're going to drop your HE chance, so you have to compensate by picking up Demolition Expert and the Signal. On the Hoborovsk, on the tier 9s, the tier 8s, basically, if your turrets traverse faster than 25 seconds for 130 millimeters, take a Adrenaline Rush. If they don't traverse fast enough, swap Adrenaline Rush for Expert Marksman. And that is pretty much your Soviet destroyer build. That's what I would do. I feel like those are the skills that benefit you the most. Why not Survivability Expert? I don't really find that I die enough to justify a Survivability Expert. Now, maybe that's weird, but the damage output, the range I can keep away from people, maybe if I was in more close quarter combat scenarios, I would take it, but I am just not. I'm just not. So it's not helping me at all. Yeah, it's going to help make your heal work better. Oh, by the way, take and heal is not worthless. It is not selfish. Do you know what this allows you to do? It allows you to take more attention away from your friendlies. If I'm in the Soviet destroyer, my goal is to get the enemy to fire at me. Inherently, I'm going to take damage. When I take damage, I can heal it. But when a person fires at me, they are risking being seen, and it should allow my teammates to not take as much attention away. It seems like it's not selfish, so don't listen to those people. Now, if you don't feel comfortable being out in the open firing constantly, don't do this. But if you are, the heal is great for tiers 9 and 10. Smoke is great as well, but smoke is not as useful for this particular style of play. We are always in the open, always seen, and you're always trying to get people to fire at you. Obviously, when you go in smoke, people don't fire at you. They'll fire at someone else. So, that's the Soviet destroyer build. Not going to talk about it any longer. That's the build. I love it. It works really well for me. Let's go to the Germans, because the Germans are probably the first test bed for the removal of stealth firing capabilities. And we know how all that worked. It was uncomfortable. It was frustrating. You felt like you couldn't disengage as easily, which you couldn't. But you didn't have the reward of playing a Soviet destroyer. The Germans are wider. They traverse, the rudder slightly not as forgiving as the Soviet destroyers. I have seen people play them guns. That's completely fine. I don't particularly like their guns. They are underperforming, but I could see why people would want to play them. I prefer to play them more around the low rearm of the torpedoes, because the rearm cycle is so friendly. You can get torpedoes on targets and take them out very consistently and keep the pressure up. So that's what I go. So the German build, preventative maintenance versus priority. Priority is really for when you are visible, when you always have situation awareness up and you want more information. If you are using smoke more actively, preventative maintenance is probably going to be a better skill for you. Next up, we take a Last Stand. Obviously, it's a destroyer. Superintendent, mandatory take for me. Smoke is even more important than it was previously, just to do basic damage with your guns. So you need more smoke charges. Superintendent is going to accomplish that. The premium consumable is going to accomplish that as well. I take it all. And I need it all with all these changes. You just can't afford to be seen while firing. It is too punishing to do that. We take concealment because concealment's great. Now, that's the standard build. What else would I add? Well, it depends on how you want to play and what you have as a potential. If my torpedoes outrange my concealment without firing by at least... Well, if my torpedoes would outrange my concealment while not firing by at least 2 kilometers, take torpedo acceleration under that circumstance. If torpedo acceleration is taken and they still outrange your detectability, your minimum detection, your 6.1 or 5.8 or 5 point whatever, whenever you have camo on, take torpedo acceleration. This will compensate. This will alleviate some of the issues you have with hitting torpedoes. The detectability does not go up when you take this. It works very well when you need to have torpedo strikes, and I think you need torpedo strikes with your Americans, with your Japanese, with your Germans, just to even come close to matching the Soviets. That's probably the next skill I take, torpedo acceleration. I take these initially, and then I take torpedo acceleration as long as the 20% reduced torpedo range is greater than 2 kilometers of your base detectability when not firing. As long as the torpedo range is greater than 8 kilometers, I'm happy. And what is it? It's 8 kilometers, so that I'm happy. That's a good range. 2 is good. I think 2 is very much the bare minimum that I would do. So, we've done that. I've got the potential to take this torpedo expertise if I were to go further, and I was going to get the... so I'm going to have 4 points, right? Maybe I take... Well, advanced firing training is so punishing now, too. I don't know what I take. Here, let's see. Let's see. Let's go gearing. Let's go gearing. Let's redistribute. Gearing is basically the same as the Germans now. You have to fire in your smoke. You have to use smoke more often. So we're going to go concealment. I really like torpedo acceleration to get the torpedo DPS up. Because of that, I want a faster torpedo rearm. Probably the best torpedo boat in the game is the gearing. I've got 4 more points that I can spend. I could pick up basic firing, demolition expert. What's my chance to light target on fire? The rate of fire is already pretty extreme. Man, it's a hard choice. Do I have the signal flags on it? Yes, I do. Alright, well, I'm probably going to lean towards demolition expert and priority target. That would be my build as an American, as probably a Japanese. Why demolition expert if you're not firing your guns that often? Well, I want to sort of start the dot timer, force them to use damage control. If they use damage control, then the potential for more fires or more flood will obviously contribute to success. That's what I want to do. For the Shimakaze, pretty much the same build. I really feel strongly that Superintendent is mandatory now for the destroyers. The American destroyers, the Japanese destroyers, and the Germans. You just have to use smoke so often. It really is... It just... and you're probably like, you're just overblowing it, Notser. You just don't understand. It really does feel like I'm hamstrung. It feels like I have to get as much smoke as I possibly can in order to even have good personal DPS. It's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. My Akizuki, obviously it's more of a gun focused. Now the Akizuki is one of those ships that really got crushed. It can't afford to be seen like the Soviet destroyers. It is very punishing whenever it's out in the open. So I get concealment. I don't get advanced firing training because it makes it to 15. They buff the range, so that's nice. This is about what advanced firing training was when you were firing in 0.6.2. So you have to get inertial fuse, high explosive. you have to sort of compensate for inertia fuse high explosive. So your build's pretty much locked. I'm going to have another 2-pointer, and I'll probably go adrenaline rush. Maybe I go torpedoes. I don't know. Yeah, maybe I go torpedo. I don't know. But I know Superintendent is going to allow me to be more aggressive by using smoke more often whenever I need to. I won't be as stingent about using it. And that's important. But yeah, that's my American, my Japanese, my German, and my Soviet builds. If you have a build that you know, a ship in mind, hey Notser, what about the Ernst? The torpedo range isn't really there. I don't think I could do the same build that you are suggesting. You're probably right. If you can't outrange your concealment, don't go a torpedo acceleration build. Swap this out, probably get adrenaline rush. That's the easiest skill I could say to sub back in. And that's what you have to do. You have to just do that. You can't really change the way the game is going. Now, higher tiers usually have higher skill. They usually have higher skilled commanders. That's why torpedo acceleration is sort of necessary to succeed. At tiers 5, 6, and 7, you might be able to get by without using it if you use your torpedoes. If you don't use torpedoes, don't invest in it. If you have a different playstyle, okay, enjoy your playstyle. This is my playstyle. I start the game off, I go for the objective. I smoke. If I feel any risk to the ship, I will send torpedoes at the opposition's smoke. If I'm a German, I use hydroacoustic to give me a little bit more protection. I might go forward if I feel like I have a chance to kill him and not risk the ship with hydroacoustic. If I'm a American or a Japanese, I usually am very cautious and I stay back, trying to avoid the inevitable torpedoes. And that's one smoke charge. I'm already down 1 smoke charge in the first 3 to 5 minutes. I will not fire my gun when I'm visible. I just won't. It's not worth it. The only time I will fire my gun is if we have a clear advantage in health. I haven't taken any damage throughout the fight. There is a chance to kill a target very quickly and take him out of the fight before he can heal, maybe a battleship or something like that. Or I'm behind an island in someone else's smoke. Your whole playstyle revolves around, is there smoke or isn't there smoke? If there's smoke, get in it, fire your guns. If you have your torpedoes up, try and line up a target that will be in range. If he's not, that's fine. You can move forward once the smoke is gone. Please turn on or use a mod that tells you the smoke timer, because now everyone's going to do it. You want to make sure you show your smoke screen as a destroyer to help you out. You turn that on, it'll put a little timer in the top right corner, and you'll know exactly how long your smoke's going to last. It doesn't tell you about anyone else's smoke, it only tells you about your smoke. But that's my build. Obodosk feels like a solid, really powerful, long-range gun system. The Z42 and the gearing, those feel like great builds. I really do enjoy those builds. So, that's been Destroyers in 0.6.3. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you can have as much success as I have had with this particular strategy. I will do more videos on this stuff if you need it. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.